All right, well, let's check in now with the latest from the November 2023 Household Affordability Index and what it's showing about the pricing for an average food basket. We've been having these conversations in the lead up to the festive season about some of the financial anxieties that family will be facing, especially when extended family are expected to come and visit. So let's see how all of these pressures are coming together, and we'll talk now to Program Coordinator from the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Foundation. That's Mervyn Abrahams. Mervyn, good evening to you and welcome. What do the numbers for this month tell us? Each month when we talk to you, the picture gets more and more dire and dismal. We've seen a number of, inflationary pressures on the average South African food basket. What are the readings telling us for this month?
So good evening, Imam, and good evening to all your viewers. So what the data shows us this month is that the cost of the basket, whilst it has increased by a very small margin. So in rand terms, we had seen an increase of 17 rand as opposed to 141 rand last month. This indicates that by and large, we are seeing a stabilizing of food prices, be it off a very high base. So the basket cost this month 5,314. As I said, it's a 17 rand increase month on month and a 478 rand increase year on year. And the biggest question facing us is really the poultry prices. So we've seen a spike in the price of eggs. In some parts of the country, we have seen increases in the price of frozen chicken. Other parts of the country not. So really that is for us an area of concern as we go into the festive season, because we know that most South Africans like to eat their chicken. So that is an open question at this stage.
And it's, of course, a go-to sort of celebratory fare that people put on the table, especially when they're, over the festive season or celebrating the season. So you mentioned eggs at an 18% increase. What's also concerning is that things that we consider to be offal or cheaper pieces or cheaper cuts of meat that could augment protein in one's basket. Also on the increase, things like chicken livers, for example, 5%. And then when you come to the things that people use to cook and also have a nutritional value, tomatoes 20%, apples, oranges 10% and 31% respectively.
Yes, so we have seen, so the whole poultry basket actually has increased. The eggs, but as you say, chicken livers, chicken feet, and what actually happens is that when chicken pieces become too expensive, people go then, of course, to the cheaper cuts of meat. But then, of course, the cheaper cuts of meat, because of demand and supply, also increases. So that hits the very poor in a double sense, almost. We've seen tomatoes increase quite dramatically over the last few weeks. That has to do with climatic and seasonal changes. But when it comes to vegetables, we've also seen at least the price of potatoes coming down and the price of onions coming down. And those two vegetables prices have increased significantly. So there is a bit of a balance in the vegetable basket at this stage. We just hope that the summer rains do not, of course, have a negative impact on vegetable growth.
Mervyn, the work that we see the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group do is really this sort of monitoring and evaluation work that keeps track of how individual families, individual food items and food baskets are being affected. I want to perhaps ask, a slightly different thing, which is what can we do? Some of the factors are way beyond our control. We know we've been speaking all night long about dysfunctionalities at the ports affecting our imports and our exports, the reliance on road transport networks and logistics networks to pick up the slack where rail can't come in. And all of these things are making the price of everything much more expensive. When you think of I don't know, innovative, lateral thinking around how we can make food cheaper, source it closer to home, get more people involved in the provision of some of the basic foodstuffs. What ideas are you and your team thinking about?
So really, Imam, you've touched on perhaps the best way, the quickest way in which we can begin to bring prices down. And that is to bring more people into the food value chain. Now, we're not speaking necessarily of more industrial commercial farmers. We are speaking about people growing food in their own communities, setting up community level markets where if you have an extra tomatoes or extra eggs, you sell it to your neighbors around in your area, be it at taxi ranks, etc. So quite a bit of this is happening around the country, and that is in a way keeping many people fed. What we need to see is government coming on board and supporting those initiatives, particularly municipalities, support people where they are, where they grow their own food. And so we cut out the long value chains, we cut out the logistics, etc.
Well, Mervyn, thank you very much for giving us that update. As you say, it's kind of the game of the scales where one thing is more expensive, other things are coming down, and it seems to have saved things a little bit, the situation for this month's food basket by about 17 Rand. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next month. Perhaps there will be some easing of the pressure on the household food baskets. Thank you for talking to us. And Mervyn also whispered in my ear that he's going to go visit my mom in Pietermaritzburg. So thank you very much for that. Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Program Coordinator, Mervyn Abrahams.